Hey everyone, welcome to a new mock interview session. We have Pallavi, who is applying to Michigan Ross and MIT Sloan, two of the schools that I applied to as well. So I feel good being the interviewer on the other side. Pallavi, how this is going to work is I'm going to pretend to be someone from Michigan Ross. I actually, you know what? I don't really have to because I did go there. Um,
Yeah.
I'm going to pretend to be an alumni interviewer. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then with each of your answer, I'm going to try to give you feedback. Yeah. So
Right.
generally, an interview would maybe take 4 to 6 questions, anywhere in that range, and it's generally a mix of like learning a little bit more about yourself and your motivations to do the MBA, maybe why this school kind of a question, followed by some questions to pick out some of the best stories from your past experience, which is also like a way to evaluate how you fit within the school, right? So
Right.
so let's just jump into it. So I'm gonna be the alumni. So hey, Pallavi, really happy to have you here. Why don't you start by walking me through your resume?
Yeah. Sure, Shavik. So I graduated from BGTI in 2015, a fresh engineer out of engineering college. I was placed in Accenture in a SAP domain. So I was working as a SAP consultant. I worked there for 2 years. Therein, I worked with chemical giants on streamlining their processes in the SP software. So later on, I came across a very interesting opportunity called Chief Minister's Fellowship Program. So I was always impact-driven individual, and I wanted to do something which is impacting lives. So I thought, this is a great opportunity to do so, and it was not a easy decision, but it was a really great one because I would say that because of that decision, my whole career trajectory changed. So then I joined the fellowship. There, I worked as a fellow for a year or 11 months, you can say, and then they retained me for 1 more year as a consultant. So in the period of these 2 years, I got to work on various projects from electric vehicles to plastic waste to urban planning to women empowerment to economic development, and that was a great exposure. Um, and
Okay.
working in that domain, I got an offer from government of Goa to work as a senior policy consultant to facilitate similar projects there in Goa. So I made the
Okay.
switch and working there ever since. So working on similar projects here in Goa also, especially in women and child domain, where you can say I have worked on nutrition, economic development of women, rural women specifically,
Okay.
intervention in primary nutrition and education, etc. So this has been my journey of 5+ years of professional experience, where I transitioned from engineering background to policy background.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah.
How did you feel about the answer?
Of course, I could have done better.
Okay. I think you did. I think you did a few things really well. I think there were, like your passion on working on the social impact side of things. I think that was pretty clear because you spent most of your time talking about that. I
Yeah.
think a couple of things.
Hmm.
First is I think this question is a lot less to do with what you have done because that's on your resume,
Okay.
right? So we can already see it.
Right.
Um, it's
Hmm.
more about explaining some of the decisions that you took. Like for example, if you did go to like engineering or whichever college you went to, um,
Hmm.
I can see it on your resume. But this is your opportunity to tell me why you chose to study this, and not others, right? And then
Right.
after engineering, if you did get into Accenture, it could be wrong, but how you put it for me was like I was placed in Accenture, and that's a really really passive way of talking
Okay.
about your first workplace. So give
Right.
me a little bit more about of all the things that you could do out of VJTI. Why did you pick Accenture in the first place, right? Like, and that
Right.
could be maybe you wanted to solve problems, or maybe you wanted like
Mm.
early exposure in your career
Mm.
to like large scale industry problems, and or maybe you wanted to
Right.
learn best practices across different industries. So give me that a little bit,
Right.
which is from your undergrad engineering all the way to your first job. And then I think I like
Right.
the way you talked about your first job. I think you talked about like working with the chemical industry. I think that was nice. So I think what you want
Mm-hmm.
to do there is to rather than talk about your day to day, tell me like very briefly about maybe one major accomplishment. So maybe you can talk about at Accenture, my biggest accomplishment was reducing the cost overhead of this chemical giant by about 20%. Happy to talk about that more if
Mm.
you'd like. So you're not really, talking about the whole thing. You're just teasing your interviewer. But if your interviewer likes it
Right.
and wants to ask you a follow-up question, you're keeping that channel open, right?
Okay.
Um,
Right.
yeah. So then I think your move to more social impact. I think that was fine. I would add a little bit of color to that. Like, give me a little bit more onto like why you did that. So I had a very similar
Okay.
path when I was applying to school. So I was an engineer working for like a big engineering company, and then I moved to this not-for-profit called Teach for India. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of, so I was actually volunteering with Teach for India before I signed up with them for
Mm.
full time. So one of the ways I would explain it was like when I was volunteering, I felt that I was making more impact as a volunteer, and I felt that's what I want to be, and I want to spend more time understanding the education sector and try to solve bigger problems, and which is why I pivoted to Teach for India full time. So try to give me that transition a little bit. Otherwise, it's a pretty sharp turn, right, from Accenture to the
Right.
Chief Minister Fellowship. So
Right.
so just give me a little bit of more of context on that transition. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. That helps a lot, Shavik. I mean, yeah, I felt that I could have done better, and these points like really help. So,
Okay, cool. So Pallavi, tell me a little bit more about why you want to do an MBA. And
mhm.
then let's also talk about why Michigan, why Ross in particular.
Yeah, sure. So, while working in Accenture as well as in these public offices, I came across, numerous individuals who were C-suite officials, or you can say a C-suite person, and I always wanted to be in their shoes. And specifically, when I went to public sector, there I managed the public finances and all. Therein, at times I came across various problems in finance, which I had no answers to, and I always wanted to learn more about finance. Later on, when I worked with some of the enterprises, or you can say startups, which were doing excellent job on the social impact front, I was really excited to know that most of them were supported by professionals who were from venture capital background and impact investing funds. So that really moved me, like because in my current job there is no stability, but there is like I was very elated to know that there is a sector which can provide me that stability as well as same work satisfaction, which is impact investing. So I thought that that MBA is a good way of getting there, and where
Hmm.
I can combine my passion as well as a livelihood. So I
Right.
thought that MBA is a next good step which I can take. And Ross, I think it's the one of the first colleges which started student-led funds. So I'm really looking forward to join Ross and get to be part of their social impact fund that is there. It's a first of its kind student led fund in USA. So I'm really excited about Ross because of such initiatives at Ross. And one more thing that excites me, to be a part of Ross, which is they have a community consulting club wherein uh, students can get involved in the NGOs and nonprofits to give them, good business tips to improve their processes. So that's what attracts
Okay.
me towards Ross. Like with other schools, like you have the same curriculum, like some different things here and there, but I think these are the few things with Ross that really stood out for me.
Okay. Cool. So, okay. So what I like about your answer was it had some really specific, like Ross related resources, which is, I think, job well done. I also think you spent a fair amount of time in your, why MBA motivation, talking about impact investing and social impact in general. I think that was well done as well. I think how you can
Mm-hmm.
make this answer even better is, I think, two things. Number one, when you are talking about your motivation to do the MBA, make
Right,
sure to tie in how you cannot go where you want to go today. So, for
right,
example, like let's say you want to be able to go to be like a consultant in the social sector, right?
right,
Um,
right.
I'm just making things up.
Mm-hmm.
But right now you can't get that job because you don't have some of the skills that consultants need. Maybe things around like business analytics, knowing things like finance, marketing, etc. But
Yeah,
also you don't have a network right now, which both of which you will be able to get it in business school, right? So whatever
right.
your goal is, tell me a little bit more about, even though you have started
Mm-hmm.
preparing and you are already laying the foundations to get to that goal, but there's something stopping you, and whatever is stopping you, the MBA is sort of the right path um, to to overcome that predicament, right? So that's my feedback on your why MBA.
Right.
So try to get more of, look, I mean, this is where I want to go. This is where I am right now, and this gap, the
Mm-hmm.
MBA would be able to fill in that gap by giving me X, Y, and Z. So now to talk
Right.
about why Ross, I think a couple of things you did well. You mentioned the social venture fund. I think the first thing is, like, for example, I'm an alum and I was a part of the social venture fund, right? So when you are telling me some of the
Of,
things about Ross, you need to like make absolutely
mm-hmm.
sure that you are naming them right and you are saying the exact things. So it's not social impact fund, it's social venture fund. So generally this
Yeah.
wouldn't matter,
Ah,
but
right, right,
like your
right.
interviewer can be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so you need to at least name it right, right? So don't just try to make sure that those things are
Yeah,
right. The community consulting club, all good. I
yeah,
think that's a good opportunity for you to learn some social impact consulting as well. And you are right, the social venture fund is the first student-led impact investment fund, which Ross is like very proud of. And we used to talk about that a lot when we were a part of the social venture fund. So,
yeah.
but I think there are ways to better structure your answer on this one. So
Mm-hmm.
what I would recommend is, like you finish your YMBA bit where you talk about the gap that you have and how an MBA can help you fill that gap.
Yeah.
And then you should move immediately to, okay, and Ross is especially a good fit for these three reasons. And then you go on to, okay, so number one, academics. Okay, so some of my challenges and some of my gaps, are related to just not knowing enough about businesses, like finance, marketing, whatever. So at Ross,
Right.
I hope to take this elective and that elective to really, prime me to have a job in social impact or impact investing, whatever. Then
Right.
second, professionally speaking, I want to post MBA. I want to do this. So I spoke with this person who did exactly that, who also had my
Right.
background. So I want to follow his or her footsteps to get there. And then third, in terms of extracurricular, social venture fund, first of its kind, I
Mm.
want to be able to, be a part of social venture fund, not only as a way for me to contribute from my own experience, but also to learn how impact investing works, how like students do due diligence
Mm.
on companies, and how they decide whether to invest or not. So I think
Right.
those things would really structure your answer, like wrap it in like a structure sandwich, and
Right.
you'd be able to stick to the course. Does that make sense?
Yes, Shavik, I think that was a lot helpful, because I think that would not only give it a structure, but also I feel it will bring out the aspects that I missed to mention.
Okay, cool. So with that said, let's move to a few, like past experience type of questions. These are mostly
Hmm.
centered around, like, some of the things that Ross or any other school would look out for, some of the character traits, and the best way to ask these questions is to ask you about some behavioral questions. So they generally
Okay.
start with like, tell me about a time when you had to do this, blah blah blah. So let's jump into one of the first ones. So Pallavi, can you tell me about a time when you had to adapt to a rapidly changing situation?
Hmm. Mm, yeah. So we get the time to think about it, right? A little, like how much time one should take.
Sure. I mean, I think you can take maybe I would say half a minute, not more than that. So
Mhm.
generally, like you don't want. I mean, I think you can say that, hey, can I take a few seconds to structure my thoughts? But
Mhm.
generally speaking, you should have stories that somewhat align to these things, and you can, in this time for you to think, you can think about how you can align this story to the question that I asked. But yeah, I think you can take some
Mhm.
time. That's fine.
Okay. Um, yeah. So, can you repeat the question once again so that I can structure
Sure.
it better?
Can you tell me about a time when you had to adapt to a changing situation?
Yeah. Sure. So, when I made the switch from Accenture to CM Fellowship, therein that was my first encounter with non-engineering people. So
Okay.
that brought in various experiences, various methods to approach a problem, and at that time I felt that okay, what am I doing here? I do not have a social background.
Sure.
I cannot process this socio-economical lingos. So that was something overwhelming for me. But what I did was that I learned. I tried to be part of the communication. I tried to read on the terms that I did not know, and then like in a healthy conversation, I used to ask the things that I couldn't process, and I think your network really helps you at times, and that's what my network did back then. They really helped me understand the terminologies, the other social sector things that were really new to me, and I can say that's how I
Okay.
adapted to a rapidly changing situation.
Okay. Cool. I think overall, I think the good context. I think that was. I think that's a challenging problem. I
Hmm.
think my feedback would be to like give me what was at stake. Like for
Right.
example, when you say that, hey, like I come from a very analytical engineering background, and when I sort of joined the social impact sector, I
Mm,
had to not only talk to different people, but also collaborate on common goals with people who are not engineers or who are not from the same background as me. So so that's the context, right? So then you
right.
tell me, like, what was the problem, like, how did it impact and what was at stake. So you can say
Right.
something like, this was especially important because we were working to make I don't know, I'm making things up now. So we were working to make a presentation, and the presentation needed to have a clear voice and have a clear narrative. And because we often would speak in different ways and we would think in different
Mm,
ways, our
mm-hmm.
presentation did not seem like it came from the same team. So that's your problem, right? So that's at stake, and you can say
Right.
that maybe a client was, like really, it was a really high impact project because the client was super important, blah blah blah. And so okay, so now you have laid out the problem, you have told me the stake. So then you can talk about how you solve this problem. So in order to do
Right.
the in order to get things done, I did three things. Number one, maybe I did one-on-ones and conversations with the rest of the team to see where their motivations are, what do they, how do they like to work the most. Number two, I tried to change how I think myself so that I could align
Mm,
more with the rest of the team. And C, maybe I leveraged some of my strengths. So I took up the analytical portion of the work so that like not only I build credibility, but also I am able to just use what I am really good at. So yeah, so we did all those three things, and after a few months, we were able to not only make a strong presentation for our client, but we were also working a lot better together as a team, which we ended up, doing like the next three projects together, whatever. So I think
right.
that does that help? So putting it in that context and telling me the
Yeah.
different kinds of stakes
Yeah.
involved and telling me structurally
Mm-hmm.
what you did differently
Yeah.
would be helpful.
Yeah. I think picking out an example would like really help. Uh, right.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's what I
No,
missed.
I agree.
I should have
Yes.
just picked out an example and narrated it. Yeah, right. I understand.
Mm. Yeah, no, I agree. I think an example would really bring this together.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think one of the things that you did really well was, to show empathy. So you're not really saying I was better than them. You're
Yeah.
basically saying I was different than them. So I think that came out well. Okay, cool. So, Pallavi, you just told me about a story where you had to, change your working style to work with people who were different from you. Can you tell
Right.
me an example where you disagreed with someone at work?
Yeah. Sure. So, when we were designing a policy for the state,
Hmm.
at that time, like we were a team of three junior fellows and then two senior department personnel, and then there were some experts on the committee, and there were some experts on the task force, and so on. So therein, I had a kind of disagreement with one of the colleagues of mine who was happened to be a year senior than me, but in the
Okay.
like he was not a department person, so I could openly disagree with that person. But at that
Hmm.
point in time, I specifically put my foot down and took the references from some of the experts which were mentioned in the past meeting, and showed it to him that where I'm coming from, and like we had a healthy conversation afterwards, like because of course like I had some points which were made by the experts, so I was able to convince him that this is the base of what I'm claiming for, and this is how we should approach this problem, and this is
Okay.
definitely going to give us results. So in the end, we came on same page, and we approached the problem, and we indeed solved it. So
Okay.
Shavik, like
Cool.
on this
So
answer, I cannot
go
be
ahead.
like more specific because we are on YouTube, and I just don't want to pop up the
Yeah,
names.
no, totally. No, absolutely. That
Yeah.
totally makes sense. So, which is what I would, like give you feedback on. So, I think
Mhm.
this is a good. This is a really good example. So,
Mhm.
as long as like when you're actually interviewing, you give your interviewer the actual specifics of this problem. So
Yeah.
like, okay, so this was the big issue. This was my position. This was this expert's position, and we had a disagreement. So
Yeah.
one of the reasons I chose to stand by my beliefs and what I thought was because of X, Y, and Z. But we also wanted to collaborate, and we also wanted to come to a consensus together. So this is what we ended up doing: A, B, and C, and that's it.
Mhm.
Like that's your answer, right? So I think you're in the right path here. So totally
Yeah.
understand confidential stuff. But yeah, no, I like the direction that you're heading on that question.
Yeah.
Cool. So tell me a little bit more about a time when you mentored someone. How did that work, and what was the outcome of your mentorship?
Yeah, sure. So this one is like really interesting. So I had mentored two people, once in Accenture and once in my current stint. So in
Okay.
Accenture, when I mentored the people, I could totally relate to them because because SAP is an ERP, right? So even though you have some coding experience, you are new to the user interface, and the coding style is different. So at times you have to figure out that
Mm-hmm.
how to do a certain step, how to execute a certain process, and that could be challenging at first. So when I was
Right.
assigned a new joiner, I was, in fact, I was really happy because as a new joiner, I used to look up to my seniors, and I felt that they would do the same, and that's what exactly happened when we were executing India GST transition for one of our clients at that time, and that was in fact one of my last projects in Accenture.
Mm-hmm.
So when we did that, the there was it was really a small team, and I had two juniors. And when I helped them out, that was satisfying experience for me. But now, like when I look back, when I touch base with them, they really thank me for all the mentorship that I did. Then later on,
Okay.
talking about the current one, again, like I had to mentor a person who was not from a policy background, and that person did not know about how the processes work, and how to approach a problem. So I'm mentoring this person, and she's also grasping things really quickly. And she
Mm-hmm.
has at times she has lots of questions, but I'm always there and happy to answer them. And
Okay.
I hope that when I start my journey for as an MBA candidate, she'll be able to fit in my
Mm-hmm.
shoes. I'm really training her for that.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So you gave me two examples, right? So I
Yeah.
think what I would maybe recommend is stick to one so that you could
Okay.
give me a little bit more details on that story, which you did. I think your second story was pretty
Mhm.
awesome. So I think again the ingredients of your answers are all there. I think
Mhm.
what you need here is a little bit more structure. So um,
Okay.
have you heard of the star format of interviewing? Have you heard of that?
Not exactly. Like I have heard it, but I have never gone through it.
Sure. So it's one of the structure that people like. I don't use that structure very often, but it's basically like the situation, task, action, results,
Mm-hmm.
and there are other formats as well. I'm happy to maybe share some resources after the interview.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is, set up the context of the situation at the beginning, then tell
Mm-hmm.
me what was your major task, like what is it what that you were working towards, and then what was the steps you took, and then what was the result. So I think right
Mm-hmm.
now, your answer, I think these are not coming out as structured as you would like. So try to do that. So give me
Yeah.
context, tell me what the task was, tell me what the task was, and then tell me what results. So the more structure you put into your answer, the easier it will be for the interviewer
Mm-hmm.
to follow what you're saying. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that helps.
Okay, you may have really brushed a little bit there, but yeah. Okay, awesome. So, okay, do you have any questions for me?
Um, yeah. So I spoke to one of the students, and so he had a background in finance already. So he had opted for
Okay,
fast track for finance. So he also,
yeah,
encouraged me to, since I'm looking for finance oriented tracks. I couldn't find one for Ross. So he told me that I can opt for one of the courses on Coursera, and then I can simply go for it. But I feel that
okay.
as a newcomer on finance, I think I should not skip any of the mandatory courses and shouldn't opt for fast track finance. So do you have any tips on that?
Okay. Yeah, so okay, so let's pretend I answered your question. But I think this is a good question. Ross has a fast track to finance program.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's the best question in an interview setting, because
Mm-hmm.
this seems like something that you can ask your admissions team, or like you can ask the students you have spoken to. I think
Okay.
for your interviewer, the best questions are the ones where you can get them to talk about themselves, right? So you can
Mm-hmm.
get them to talk about their experience, what they liked, what they didn't like. So maybe ask a question where it's not about you, but it's more about them. So you can talk to them about,
Okay.
okay, so hey, like when you were telling me about your background, I learned that you moved from finance to consulting. Can you tell me about that transition? How did that work?
Right.
What was challenging? Some of the other questions could be also be around culture, like, hey, Ross is a very collaborative culture. Can you tell me
Mm-hmm.
can you tell me about the community and how did that help you or not help you? Would love to learn more. So anything that get them to talk about their own experience would be
Mm-hmm.
really, really helpful.
Okay. Okay. So,
Awesome. Cool. I think. Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. So, like you said, that get them to talk about their own experience. So does it has to be around their professional experiences, or maybe we can ask some of the culture, like culture, of course you mentioned, but some of personal experiences, that how did they why did they choose Ross? Like what was their reason behind choosing Ross, or something like that, or that would come across kind of rude question.
No, no. I think that's fine. I think you can totally ask people why they picked the school that they picked.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's completely fine. In fact, you should ask them. I think because you are also applying to multiple schools, and this is as much about you as it is for us.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I think it would be helpful if you ask them that question. Totally.
Right. Right. Um,
All right, awesome. So I think I hope this was helpful, Pallavi. I think I
Yeah,
had fun
definitely.
doing these. Uh, Interviews are always tricky, but I hope this gave you some experience and some feedback to work off of. Please keep in touch and let us know how things
Definitely.
go. But we'll
Definitely.
be rooting for you for both Ross and MIT. Come
Yeah.
back to GMAT Club, tell us how that process went, and happy to engage
Mhm.
further.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Shavak. And thank you so much
Awesome.
for organizing this and your time.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to do that. Thanks, Pallavi. I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.